As more sectors tap into the benefits of the digital transformation, we'll find out how Nigeria's ports and maritime sector can benefit from this drive and the potential in Nigeria. Maher Jarmakani, the CEO of Nigerdock, joins me now in the studio for this discussion. Maher, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you.
Now, it's interesting, when I have a conversation about Nigeria's ports, of course, shipments and all of that, and most times my conversations always, focus on the challenges, the gridlock, etc. But it's always also good to, have a player to have that conversation with. But tell us, what is the situation at the ports right now?
Well, with 70% of the gross domestic product of the West Africa region headed towards Nigeria, the Nigerian ports account for 80% of goods being received into the country. So it's under tremendous pressure to be able to funnel all those goods and services coming in through the ports with the infrastructure it has today. We have a growing population, we have growing demand for finished goods and raw materials. We need to be able to handle it in an efficient way and evacuate it to the cargo owners. And today we have ports in the western ports of Nigeria which are over 30 to 40 years of age and needing new investment, modernization, new machinery and equipment. And unless we attract the right investors who are keen to focus on the Africa market, we won't get those investments and infrastructure improvements.
Now, speaking about investments and infrastructure, I know that the Nigerian Ports Authority has been trying to establish a completely digital ecosystem at the ports. But I understand that it's still in early stages. But what is the NPA envisioning for the ports with the digitization, which is obviously geared towards making the ports more efficient?
They have a vision for a very efficient port system between the western and eastern ports of Nigeria. And I think they have done a very good job to date to improve the digitization and to clear some of the road networks around the ports. They are now focusing on modernizing some of the older ports in Apapa and Tinkan. They have been supporting the development of Lekki Port, which is a great initiative. I think in 5 years down the line, if they keep focused on these improvements, we will have a completely modernized ports in Nigeria that can start to receive much larger vessels, which is the way the maritime transport industry is going. And today we can only receive vessels that were designed 20 to 30 years ago. Today's vessels that are coming into the West Africa region are much larger and need much more modernized ports.
I'm happy you mentioned that point, because I was going to ask you, what are we missing out on, having with our ports in the states that they are in? Because, I hear often about certain shipments, cargoes being diverted to neighboring African countries. And I ask myself, what do they have there? What's the advantage over there in those smaller countries that Nigeria doesn't have?
Well, the modern ports that have been built across the West Africa region have deeper depths for the vessels. So vessels that are 15 to 16 meter draft are unable to come into the western ports in Nigeria, while they can go into other western ports, West Africa ports. There's also the efficiency of evacuating the cargo. So the turnaround times of vessels coming in and leaving port is lengthy. When vessels arrive to the Nigerian waterways, they have to wait outside the ports, and then once they enter, it is taking a long time to turn the vessels around. Those same ship owners and cargo owners are looking for much more efficiency, so they choose other ports along the West Africa route.
So investors who are listening to this conversation, perhaps foreign investors who've heard about those gridlocks, are probably wondering, so what is it? Where does those knots happen right from when the cargoes come out into the ports, into the roads? Do we need to expand the roads? Are there obstructions on the roads that we need to take out? How about alternative forms of transportation? Is there a rail in the works? How can we remove those knots?
There are several components to decongestion. They have to do with improving the connectivity and road infrastructure. They have to do with working closely with agencies of government that ensure that there is road networks are free of trucks and the kind of flow of traffic coming out of the ports, and that they are diverted to the right network of roads across the country. There are cross-border issues where neighboring African countries are bringing goods into the country, into Nigeria, and these need to be diverted to the right road networks, the major arteries that reach into the country. Without this focused effort to move goods in the right way, we will continue to have congestion. And then the other component is just focusing not only on the road networks, but on other means of transport. The railway is a very important initiative. Parts of it are working, but there's a huge component of it that still needs to be built.
We have about a minute left or so. What has been a Nigerdock experience? Talk to us about your operations, working on the ground, of course, having a front row seat to all that's happening at the ports.
Well, Nigerdock is being able to unlock significant capacity to support the port infrastructure. We work very closely with Nigerian Ports Authority to make sure our capacity is available for increased traffic in the waterways. We are developing an economic zone of 250 hectares. We are ensuring that we have an attractive setup that gives investors and players in the maritime industry access to power, security, land, and an ease of doing business, which attracts them to Nigeria as opposed to going to other African countries, ensuring that Nigeria is a competitive place and that we align ourselves with the national interest of the country.
Absolutely.